Good morning, all. Answer your attendance. Afla, Ajmina, Ameya,
Present, Miss.
Atulya,
Present, Miss.
Drishya, Jyotish, Karthik,
Present, Miss.
Kavya,
Present, Miss.
Nachiketas,
Present, Miss.
Neeraj,
Present, Miss.
Rangeet, Vaishna, Vaishnav, Anjali, and Shruti. Afla is there? Ajmina? Okay. Drishya, Jyotish, okay, good morning, all of you. We will start with our topic. So, last week we have completed the fourth module, and today I'll be taking the fifth module, that is the transport layer. So, transport layer, as you all know, this is the fourth layer of the OSI model, right? It is the fourth layer of the OSI or TCP/IP model. Now, what is the main responsibility of this transport layer? Can anybody tell what is the responsibility of this transport layer? Anybody is,
Flow control, error control.
okay, the main thing is it is responsible for process to process delivery. It is responsible for process to process delivery. Okay, now what do you mean by process? Process is nothing but it is an application program running on a host. You will be having several processes which will be running on your source host as well as your destination host. Now, a process is nothing but it is an application program that is running on a particular host. Okay. Now, when we were dealing with the network layer, that is the third layer of the TCP/IP model, you have seen its responsibility was source to destination delivery of the individual packets, right? And you don't have any relationship between these packets. Now, the network layer, what it will be doing is it will be treating each packet independently, right? So, when we're dealing with network layer, I have told you the main important function of network layer is the source to destination delivery or host to host delivery, you can tell, right? And you don't have, so you will be having your data, you will be dividing it into packets, and each packet you don't have any relationship between one and the other. Now, all the packets were treated independently there. But when you are considering this transport layer, it ensures that the whole message arrives at the destination and also in the correct order. I repeat, transport layer is mainly ensures that all the whole message, you will be dividing your message into segments, and it takes care that all the segments reaches the destination accurately and also in the correct order, right? So the meaning is it oversees the flow control and the error control at the source to destination level. Okay, now as far as the service, is considered, this the third layer is nothing but the network layer, and the fifth layer is nothing but the application layer when you are considering the TCP/IP model. So what it does is it receives services from the network layer and it will provide services to the application layer. Okay, so this is just an introduction of the transport layer. So transport layer, I have told you, it is the fourth layer of the TCP/IP model, and its function is the process to process delivery of the entire message. And I have told what is process to process. Process to process means you're having some application program running on your host, and it is nothing but an application program running on a particular host, right? And also it ensures that you will be dividing your message into different segments. You will be having several segments like this, and the transport layer, it ensures that all the segments, it reaches the destination in the correct order. Each segment arrives also, and also should be in the correct order, right? Now what is meant by process to process delivery? What is the exact meaning of that? Now, who all has joined now? Afla is there? No? Drishya? Jyotish? Rangeet? Vaishna? Vaishnav? Anjali? Shruti? Okay, right. Okay, now what is meant by process to process delivery? So before telling that process to process delivery, I will just tell you what was the important function of data link layer. Now, what was the important responsibility of data link layer? Can anybody tell? What was the important function? We have already studied about data link layer, and what was its function or responsibility? Yes, Amaya?
Node to
Yeah.
node delivery.
Data link layer was responsible for node to node delivery. That means the whole message, you will be calling it as frames in the data link layer, and data link layer is responsible for the delivery of frames between two neighboring nodes over a link. So see, you have a source host, you have a destination host. Maybe your source and the destination may be connected through several individual physical networks. So from node to node, which is the nearest router to reach your destination, you may be having many routers in middle place. So from node to node, you have to deliver the message, and that is the responsibility of the data link layer. Now, what was the responsibility of network layer? Network layer is responsible for the delivery of packets. You can also call it as datagrams between two hosts. If you have your source host and if you have your destination host, network layer is responsible for the delivery of packets between your source host and your destination host. But when you are considering the communication on the internet, it is not just the exchange of data between two nodes or between two hosts. Actually, the real communication takes place between two processes or between application programs. And that is the meaning of process to process delivery. So real communication, it takes place between two processes or application programs, and the transport layer takes care of that. As an analogy, if I'm telling, I have written a letter from Kannur to Alapi, I am sending a letter to my friend, okay? Now, I have to pass through several places in order to reach Alapi, right? Now, it might be you might be finding the shortest path based on the routing algorithm to reach my destination. So once it reaches my friend's house, that is from the source host to the destination host, that responsibility is taken care by the network layer. Now, if 5 members are there in that family and exactly that letter reaches to my friend, right? And that is the meaning of process, right? The corresponding application program. If a message I am sending, it has to reach to the correct process, right? And the transport layer takes care of that function, right? Now, when you are considering this, so you can see in the diagram, you will be having several processes running on your source host and your destination host. Now, if you want to complete that delivery, you need a mechanism to deliver data from one of these processes, which is running on the source host, to the corresponding process running on the destination host. So what I told us, if you want to perfectly deliver your data or deliver your message from one process from the source host to the destination host, the corresponding process only receives that, and that function is taken, that responsibility is taken care by the transport layer. So it is responsible for the process to process delivery. It can be the delivery of packet, or it can be a part of a message from one process to another. Right? Now, two processes communicate in a client-server relationship. You will be having your client and you will be having your servant. Now, two processes communicate in that relationship, a client-server relationship. Now, a process which is running on the local host, you can call it as the client. And what it requires is it needs a service from a process which is running on the remote host. And that remote host, you can call it as the server. Right? And you won't be differentiating it as client or server, both will be knowing and the same name. Right? So, as an example, if I want to get the day and time from a remote machine, I require a day and time client process running on one machine, and also a day and time server process that is running on the remote machine. Right? So, if you want to deliver the data process to process delivery, if the two processes will be communicating in a client server relationship. One will be acting as the client and one will be acting as the server. Right? Now, you can just see in the diagram the type of data deliveries. So I have told you, in a source host, you will be having several processes running on it. And similarly, in the destination host also, you will be having several processes. Now, you know, the source host as well as the destination host, they are connected through several routers. Right? So from your source host to the nearest router, that is the representation, that is called it as node to node delivery. Then from that router, so to the next router. So this is the second router. See, this is another node to node delivery. Now this is the third one. This is another node to node delivery. So the whole thing, it is responsible for by the data link layer. So the node to node delivery is the function of the data link layer. Now your source host is here and your destination host is here. Now, if you want to deliver the entire packet or the entire message from your source host to your destination host, and that is the function of your network layer. Right? Now, if you have several processes, several processes will be running on your source host and several processes will be running on the destination host. So exactly to the correct process between the two machines. If this is the correct process, this is the application program that I meant, if that reaches the correct process, and that function is taken care by the transport layer. Okay, so this is how the type of data deliveries that is happening in an inter-network. Right, from your, if you are considering your source host as well as your destination host. Understood up to here? What is the importance of transport layer and what do you mean by process to process delivery? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Right? Now if you want to deliver something to one specific destination among many, what you require is you require an address, right? So whenever we are writing a letter, without your address, it won't be reaching to the correct destination. So if you want to deliver something to one specific destination out of many, you require an address. Now at the data link layer, the address was known as what? Can anybody tell? The data link layer, the address was known as the Can anyone answer it? It was called as the, yes, Kavya. Kavya is there? Yes?
Physical.
Can't hear. Once more you tell.
Physical address.
Yeah, it is called it as the physical address, or also you can call it as the MAC address, right? So a frame in data link layer, you needs a destination MAC address as well as you require a source MAC address, right? Now at the network layer, you require an address, and that was called it as what? What was the address in the network layer? Afla? What was the address in the network layer? Yes, tell. Logical addressing, or you can also call it as the IP address, right? So network layer, you require that IP address. Similarly, data link layer, you require the MAC address. Now, similarly, at the transport layer, you require a transport layer address, and that is called it as the port numbers. That is called it as the port numbers. Right now, if you want to choose, I have told you, you will be having several processes running on your source host as well as your destination host. So if you want to choose among the multiple processes which is running on the destination host, you require a port number which is needed for, I want to deliver it to the corresponding destination. So require a port number. Similarly, if I want to reply to that particular port, I need a sender port, source port number also. So you require a destination port number as well as a source port number. Destination port number is needed for delivery of the data. Now source port number is needed for the reply. Right now, in internet model or this TCP IP model, the port numbers, they are nothing but they are 16-bit integers. They are 16-bit integers. It is varying from 0 to 65,535. So you require a port number, and the port number, they are varying from 0 to 65,535. So I have told you transport layer, I have told you the functions of transport layer, and if you want to deliver something, you require an address, and that address in transport layer, you can call it as the port number. Right? Now, this is how you have to distinguish between your IP address versus port number. See, you have several processes running on your destination or the source host, right? Now, what is the importance? You will have an IP address. Once it reaches your destination, you will be identifying it with the IP address. And in that particular host, you will be having your port number, and port number, it selects the process. Now, IP address, what it does is it selects the host. Okay, so based on that IP address, so if I want to deliver a packet from my source to destination, first I will be making use of the IP address to reach the particular network or reach the particular host, and from there I have to make use of the port number in order to deliver the data to the correct process. Right? Now, next is what you have to know is INR ranges. INR means Internet Assigned Number Authority. Internet Assigned Number Authority. Right? Now, what they have done is they have divided your port number. I have told you the port number is varying from 0 to 65,535. Now, what they have done is they have divided the port numbers into 3 ranges. So from 0 to 1023, you have the port numbers. They are called it as well-known port numbers. And from 1024 to 49151, you have registered port number. And from 52 to 65,535, you can call it as the dynamic port number or private port numbers. right? So INA, the Internet Assigned Number Authority, they have divided the port numbers into different ranges as well-known port numbers, as registered port numbers, and also as dynamic or the private port numbers, right? Right. Now, the next thing is what you have to know is I have just told you transport layer is responsible for process to process delivery, right? Now, this process to process delivery, they require two identifiers. What they require is they require two identifiers. One is if you want to have a connection, right? It require two identifiers, right? And that is nothing but that is your IP address and that is your port number. So the combination of this IP address and the port number, you can call it as the socket address. You can call it as the socket address. So you should understand what is a socket address. You will be having an IP address, you will be having a port number. Together, the combination of both, you can call it as the socket address, right? So when you are considering the transport layer protocol, what you require is you need a pair of socket addresses. You will be having your client socket addresses and you will be having your server socket addresses, right? So you will have four pieces of information now. You'll have an IP address and port number as the source side socket client's socket address, and you will be having again your port IP address and the port number and the server socket address. So you will have four pieces of information now. So these four pieces of information, they are the part of the IP address as well as IP header as well as the transport layer header. So you can just see IP header, you will have the IP address here, and the transport layer header, it consists of the transport layer port number. Okay, so a transport layer protocol, you require a pair of socket address, and they are the part of the IP header and the transport layer protocol header. Now the IP header, what it contains is it contains the IP address. Now the transport layer, what it does is it contains the port numbers. Okay, understanding what do you mean by socket address? Socket address is nothing but it is just a combination of your IP address and your port number. Right now, you will be studying about the protocols in a minute. So these protocols, what they require is they require a pair of socket addresses. Let it be in the client side or let it be in the server side. So the information what is present in the IP header is the IP address, and the information that is present in the transport layer is nothing but the port number. Right? Understood up to here? What is INR ranges, what is socket address, and what is port number? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Good. Right. Okay. Now, the next concept what you're going to see is multiplexing and demultiplexing. I hope you understand the term multiplexing and demultiplexing. Multiplexing means, what is multiplexing? Multiplexing means? What is multiplexing? What is the meaning of multiplexing? Neeraj. Multiplexing means? Nachiketas. What is multiplexing and what is demultiplexing? In short, how you can tell? Multiplexing means many to one.
Combine.
Many to one, right? Many to one relationship, you can call it as multiplexing. And demultiplexing means one to many. Now, what is the concept in this transport layer what is the concept of multiplexing and demultiplexing? Now, what is the importance of that is your addressing mechanism. It allows multiplexing and demultiplexing by the transport layer. I have told you will be having several processes running on your source host as well as your destination host. Now, at the sender side, if you are considering, there may be several processes. They need to send the packets, right? But you have only one transport layer protocol. You have only one transport layer protocol at any time. And what you require? You require the multiplexing process. So what the protocol does is it accepts the messages from different processes, right? And you will be having different port numbers also in order to distinguish all these processes. Now what it does is after adding the header, it passes to the network layer. Okay, so the meaning is you will be having several processes running at the center side, and you will be identifying it with the different port numbers. But if each process, if they need to send packet, you have only one transport layer protocol. So you need a multiplexer there. So it converts many to one. Now, once it reaches this, once it does that multiplexing operation, what it will do, it will add the additional information like headers and whatever is required to transfer it to the network layer. Right? Now, what happens at the receiver side? At the receiver side, you require demultiplexing. Now, what is this? What is the importance is the transport layer, it receives the datagrams or the packets from the network layer. Right? Now, I have told you in transport layer, you have your error control mechanism, and after doing all that things, what it will be doing is it will deliver each message to the corresponding process. So you will have one-to-many relationship in here at the receiver side. So it is delivering each message to the appropriate process based on the port number. Right? So this is the concept of multiplexing and demultiplexing in transport layer, by the transport layer. You have an addressing mechanism. I have told you many processes will be running at the source side as well as the destination side. So if you want, you have only one protocol. So in order to send through to the network layer, you have to multiplex it. At the receiver side, you have to deliver it to the corresponding process, to the corresponding application programs, and there you require the demultiplexing process. Right? Okay. Now, the next thing what you have to know is the transport layer protocol. It can be either connectionless or connection oriented. You have gone through this word many times. It can be either connectionless or connection oriented. Now, what is the meaning of connectionless service? So in a connectionless service, the packets are sent from one party to another with no need for connection establishment or connection release. I have told you network layer, they are connectionless services. They are doing connection. You don't have any relation between the packets, what you are sending. You will be dividing the message into individual packets, and you don't have any relationship between those packets, and they will be taking any path in order to reach the destination. You don't want to establish a connection from your source host to your destination host. So in connectionless service, the packets are sent from one party to another with no need for connection establishment or connection release. Right? The packets are not numbered here. They may be delayed, or they may be lost, or they may be arriving out of sequence. And there is no acknowledgement also. So the transport layer protocol, it can be either a connectionless service or a connection oriented. So connectionless, I have told you. You don't have any relation between the individual packets. They are not numbered. They will be reaching at how they want to reach. They will be reaching out of sequence. Sometimes the packets may be delayed. Okay. So you don't have any acknowledgement process also in this connectionless service. Right? Now the next one is the connection oriented service. Now what is connection oriented service? In a connection oriented service, the connection is first established between the sender and the receiver. So connection is established between the sender and the receiver. Then the data are transferred. At the end, the connection is released. Right? So you will have two types of, you will be studying two types of transport layer protocol. So in that, one will be connectionless protocol and the other one will be connection oriented protocol. Right? Connection oriented means you have a definite path from your source host to your destination host. The connection is established, then the data are transferred. So once, if you want to deliver the data, you will be establishing the connection first, you will be delivering the data, and you will be terminating the connection. Right? Now, the transport layer service, it can also be reliable or unreliable. Now, what is the meaning of reliability and unreliability? Reliability means if the application layer program needs reliability, you require a reliable transport layer protocol by implementing flow and error control at the transport layer. So I want to deliver the data with most reliability, means I make use of this flow control and the error control mechanism. Right? So if any program, if any application layer program, if it needs reliability, you make use of a reliable transport layer protocol by implementing the flow and error control mechanisms. But it is a complex service. Now, if the application program, if it does not need any reliability, then you can use of an unreliable protocol. Okay, so that is reliability and unreliability. If you want reliability, you have to make use of such type of protocol. If you don't want reliability, then you want to make use of that type of protocol. Now, when you are considering your transport layer, you can have three types of protocol. Three types of protocol. One is UDP, the other one is TCP, and other one is SCTP. These are the three different protocols at the transport layer. UDP means user datagram protocol. TCP is transmission control protocol, and SCTP is stream control transmission protocol. Right? So if you want, these are the protocols which responds to the demand of application layer programs. So if you are considering in your syllabus, you have to study the first two type of application, first two types, that is UDP and TCP is there in your syllabus. And when you are considering this UDP, it is a connectionless protocol. Later you'll be studying why it is called it as connectionless and also an unreliable protocol. Right? So UDP is connectionless and unreliable protocol, but TCP is a connection-oriented service and also a reliable protocol. Understanding? You have three different protocols in the transport layer. One is UDP, TCP, and SCTP. The main ones, UDP and TCP, you have to cover in your syllabus. When you are considering this UDP, user datagram protocol, it is a connectionless unreliable protocol, and TCP, it is a connection-oriented reliable protocol. Right? Now, you might have already studied the error control as well as the flow control mechanism in your data link layer. When we were dealing with data link layer, I have told you, right? You require their error control. We have seen the ARQ mechanisms there. Now, what is the necessity of error control and flow control in the transport layer? You require both. At both the layers, you require the error control and the flow control mechanism. Now, when you are considering the data link layer, there the reliability is between two nodes, right? Just as you, data link layer is responsible for node-to-node delivery. So it is, reliability is achieved or between two nodes only, right? And but what do you require? You want the full reliability. I mean, if you, for the entire message. So at the transport layer also, you require this error control mechanisms. Understanding what is the importance of error control in the transport layer? You are doing both at both the layers, at the data link layer as well as the transport layer. Reliability, the data link layer, that is responsible for node-to-node delivery. So you have error and flow control mechanism only from to that part, node to node. But if you want to deliver from one host to particular host or from process to process, you require the entire error control mechanism if you want the full reliability. So transport layer is providing that. All right, and this is the place where UDP, TCP, and SCTP is present in the TCP/IP protocol suite. Already you have studied about the network layer protocols, IP protocol, ARP, RARP, ICMP, and IGMP. And when you are considering this transport layer, and you have three different protocols like TCP, UDP, and SC. Right? So that much is there for today. So I'll just repeat what I have told. We were dealing with the transport layer, the fourth layer of the ISO OSI model on the TCP/IP model. Right? Now the main important function of transport layer is process to process delivery. Now what is the meaning of process to process? Now I have told you you require an address there that is known as the port address. I have told you what is socket address, a combination of IP address as well as your port number. Together you can call it as the socket address. And I have told you about reliability and unreliable service. And I have also told you about connectionless and connection-oriented service. Understood this much topic? Yes or no?
Yes, miss.
Yes, okay. Now tomorrow we will be just starting with the protocol, that is UDP protocol. Absentees of today's class, Drishya, Jyotish, then Vaishna and Vaishnav, Shruti. Ara. Vaishna,
Hello?
when did you join?
8-5.
Etta Anjo. When I called up Ajmina, you were there? See, you have to be online by 8 o'clock. See, otherwise I won't be able to identify who all were present or absent. Okay, so this is the last warning I'm giving for you. So if you want to attend the class, be on time to the class. 7 sharply at 8 o'clock, no need to join. Join by 7:59 or 7:58, so that the 2 minutes you can have the aram se you can just proceed. Okay, don't join in a hurry or something like that.